Well, staying with the issue of those protests, for more analysis, Steve Letsike, a human rights activist, back on the line. Steve, my question to you was your own analysis of the violence and the response that we have seen from the community this past week.
Yeah, no, thanks, Kitty. I hope I'm better now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, excellent. I think we need to accept as a country, we're dealing with quite a lot of disgruntled community members across issues around illegal mining, illegal immigrants, issues around violence, service delivery. So we have to actually really deal with the substance of lack of service delivery. If we have had consistent policing, consistent service delivery, we would not be having this kind of unruliness and lack of rule of law and respect for that rule of law. And I think seeing this kind of people in communities taking over, including those who are involved in quite illegal activities or criminal activities. But I think in terms of what we are also seeing, I mean, there's also huge protests that are coming up across the country. And this is not new for South Africa because we do have a history of protest, of freedom of assembly and association. One of this is a right to protest, a right to rise when there is unhappiness, because part of this freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, it's part of the bedrock of our democracy, right? But while there is that right, but there are limitations. So we need to be able to differentiate when this right is actually turned into a criminal activity versus when there's a protest in terms of assembly. So I think when it comes to all of these, we need to be able to distinguish. But there is quite a lot of issues we're dealing with in society.
Steve, you also spend a great deal of your time advocating on issues around gender. And the one thing that, seems to have been overshadowed this week is that the reason why this response from the community that sparked all of this outrage was not because of illegal mining necessarily. It was because of the brutal rape of young women out in West Village. And yet, when we see the responses, in many ways, it's a reflection of our failure as a country to address and confront the issue of rape and what we really carry as a national shame as a society.
Yeah. Absolutely, Kathy. I mean, look, South Africa has the highest gender-based violence, femicide, and even hate crimes for that matter. And we daily deal with quite a lot of cases. Now, what level of rage are we seeing, not only just from disgruntled members of society or communities that are raising an alarm to gender-based violence, but also what rage are we seeing from the prevention part of it? Because one, we must also deal with how do we actually avoid or prevent rape, violence, and toxic society from continuing in the manner that it's happening. Because South Africa has now become a country of response. It's only when somebody has died, has been brutally raped, gang raped, that we are responding. We have raised this alarm before. The gender-based violence activists across the country, like the call to action, there's been total shutdowns. Even the president has raised this as an alarm and even launched the NSP. Now, this NSP is being implemented. Now, how do we then remove society? Society can't remove itself from its role not to actually act on these. Men are the perpetrators, and how do we prevent this from continuing? It happens even amongst adolescent girls. Teenagers are being raped. We can't even speak about teenage pregnancy without thinking about statutory rape. Where is this rage, and when do we take it out, and when do we don't take it out?
Of course, the reality now is that as it stands, we haven't had any clear update about the conditions of those, young women that were gang raped. And secondly, none of those that have been taken into custody as it stands have been directly linked to that crime. But again, it's an experience that many women in this country go through. It's part of the reason why we have such low conviction rates where rape is concerned, and why, again, many women don't go to the police to report what has happened.
I mean, there's quite a lot of, what we call secondary victimization. People, communities, women, LGBTI people, don't really have faith in the justice system because of the very same low conviction rate that we have. I mean, we know our system and our judiciary can work. We know it, in fact, if it actually is exercised, it can deliver the right thing. Now, where is the system broken? Why are we denying this justice? Why are we even not preventing the issues? So the secondary victimization, the issue of forensic department, the DNAs are stuck in forensic, the police corruption that is happening in the police. I mean, these are things that if there's this extreme high level of incompetency, why are we keeping the people in the system, whereas we need to get rid of incompetency? And this is also why we are seeing the rage of people around service delivery, because you can't go to a police station and actually be told, why were you wearing a mini skirt, or why were you working late at night? I mean, who shouldn't? And actually, why are we allowing that these kind of questions that actually shifts the responsibility to
All right, Steve, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. Looks like we're losing you again on the line. Human rights advocate Steve Letsike there.